Yes, good evening everyone. So in today's session, we are going to see how probability is related to, machine learning. Same in the previous sessions, we have seen how we can build simple classifier and how we can build a simple regressor. And in today's session, we'll be seeing how we can relate probability towards machine learning. So that's what the agenda of today's session. So we'll be using as usual Colab itself. So no need of having any kind of softwares and any prerequisites. So first let's see the theoretical concept and we'll try to work on both text. So we'll be working on text and we'll be working on simple data set. So that's the agenda of today's session. Right. So if you can see the slide, so just I'll give you a bit introduction about this thing, whichever I'll be keep on telling. So whatever, so how can I relate probability to data science? Because simple, what do you mean by probability? If you can see the screen includes AI, machine learning and deep learning. So generally, what do you mean by probability? Chat box will be having Q&A question. So in that you can see, yes, generally probability is nothing but it is the ratio of, I can say that is a ratio of total number of outcomes by favorable number of outcomes by the total number of outcomes. Suppose if you see how can an event will occur or not, right? Because everything depends on the same thing, whether that is able to happen or not. That can be any kind of data. Yes. So even we take some chances in life. So in the same way, we try to relate that thing to an event. That can be whether the play is possible or not, whether the event will be, whether we can travel or not. We can relate all those things. Yes, that's what we are trying to tell. It is occurrence of event or whatever you can term in layman terms. That is the ratio of number of favorable outcomes to the total number of outcomes. If I toss a coin, the favorable outcome will be 1/2 because my result will be either head or tail. So that's how the things are. So in the same way, I relate data to, if I talk about probability, obviously I need to have some data and I follow the probability principles, right? The probability principle is probability will always be positive and it is never be equal to 1 because resound is from your end. Please check it. I hope my voice is clear for everyone. You please check your audio controls. So if you say this thing has been the part of statistics, because statistics is something like how you relate, how you try to analyze and how you try to interpret the data so that you can perform some kind of analysis so that you can interpret the data in a better way, where you are any kind of sales or any kind of transactions, any kind of history, you are trying to visualize in a better way so that instead of going through the entire data set, that can be an Excel sheet or database, you try to visualize. That's where statistics has origin, probably 100 years back itself. But now we are trying to use some advanced technologies which include something like which we name them as machine learning or everything, or machine learning or deep learning or natural language processing. This all comes under subset of artificial intelligence. If I talk about data science is something like it understands the concepts of data. You try to extract the insights from data and you try to relate them with the help of any kind of analytical tools, right? So that's how you make sure the probability is related. So again, we'll come back to that part, but if you see the screen, I always try to relate the same thing. So because AI is different and data science is different, so when we talk about AI, it is something like we are trying to build an intelligent machine which is artificial. If you try to think about data science is something like where you try to extract the insights from data with the help of some tools, that can be big data tools, or you try to deploy the data in the cloud, which includes every concept. Even it includes the learning concepts of data, which includes predictive modeling. That is, if you try to work on numbers, that will be machine learning. If you try to work on text, that will be natural language processing. If you try to work on images, that can be deep learning or computer vision. These all fields are diversified. So in the same way, if you try to relate an intelligent machine, so humans will possess all skills, that he has some memory, he has some long-term memory, short-term memory, all these things which we have been discussing from the past. And in the same way, if we try to relate the same concept to a machine, so how do I relate that? I relate that thing only with the concept of building an artificial intelligent machine. So that should have a brain, and that brain should try to think, and it should act, it should perform, it should perform all kind of functionalities how a human being is doing, right? So because we have been trained from our childhood to do all those things. So that is the reason I always love to share this quote. If you can see, AI is akin to building a rocket ship. So can anyone say what do you mean by rocket ship? If you can see the quote over there, you can segregate the words. You can split the words, rocket ship. If you can see the slide, so that was a famous quote which made me inspired 5 years back. So to move my career into data science. Any guesses? What do you mean by rocket ship? Where you'll see in the takeoffs of the rockets, where you can see the big kind of things which is present, which is holding the satellite to go into space. What happened? Any guesses for rocket ship? Don't Google it. You just give your guess. It is something like which carries the materials to space, which carries satellites, which carries the astronauts to space. That is nothing but rocket ship, which carries heavy amount of materials. See, ship is something like which carries heavy amount, right? Because rocket is different, rocket ship is different. Rocket is something like which carries astronauts. Rocket ship is something like which holds all space related material, your fuel and all the stuff which are important for the rocket to take care. So that is the very huge thing. So for every rocket, you can see the shape of it, which is holding all the things. So in the same way, AI is something like building a rocket ship, where you need to have huge amount of fuel and large engine, right? So why do you require a large engine? To take off, right? So similarly, if you can see here, if you have a large engine and a tiny amount of fuel, what do you mean by tiny amount of fuel? Very less amount of fuel. That means your rocket will not go into orbit. It will collide somewhere before going into the orbit. Even though you are having a large engine, tiny amount of fuel, it cannot make into orbit. If you're having large fuel and if you're having very less small engine, it cannot even take off. Large engine, large fuel should be both should be in a comparable amount. That is same related to your learning algorithms and your data. Your data should be present, and your learning algorithms is nothing but your rocket engine. Engine is nothing but which is holding the everything. Your fuel is nothing but your data. So they should be available in a pretty same amount of manner. If one thing is less, the other thing will obviously have its adverse effect. So that is the code which I loved it. So I wanted to share it to you. So that's how AI has been related. So if you see the subsets of AI, you include machine learning, where you try to make your model learn from the data. So the more data you feed, the more experience it gains. And we have discussed the steps in the previous thing. So deep learning, where you try to relate the word deep. What do you mean by word deep? You're having the number of layers, right? So that a simple neural network will be built so that how a human being has been learned from childhood, in the same way your model will be able to segregate. So that is the simple difference I would like to share. So if you understood this code, then you'll be having pretty much clear view on what is artificial intelligence. It is not something like out of world. See, I said fuel is huge amounts of data. If you have huge amounts of data, that data can be numbers or images or text. Even if you have audio to text. Even if you have video to images, images to pixels, pixels to pattern, edges to patterns to your output. It will be segregated. That's where the concept of data analytics or data mining, which we used to call previously, has been related. Yep. So that's how the something like history, and I relate this. If you see about machine learning, you see the supervised task and unsupervised and reinforcement, which we have been discussing from the couple of webinars. But I would like to introduce the same thing, because a person in layman terminology should also understand how this is related to our general terms. You relate machine learning to human learning. How a human has learning phases. He'll learn from an expert. He'll have the guidance from an expert. and he'll have self-learning concept. See, we human emotions may not exactly match, because how can you have an emotion? Because you'll see your parents. How can you segregate what is an emotion actually? Because emotions are different, feelings are different. When you have some pain, you try to express it either by your eyes, or you try to relieve it by your echo. So in the same way, because machine can only exhibit emotions with its happiness or anger, it cannot have pain, because we human beings have body and skeleton. You machines will have the metal, right? It cannot have pain. It can only exhibit emotions that is not human emotions. That can be only, it can understand our emotions, whether he is smiling or whether he is angry, because it will be trained with those. That is the reason Sophia has been given the citizenship. So this is how the machine learning tasks are divided. Today we are going to see about the Bayesian networks, where the concept of probability has been come into picture. So if I relate, you have already said probability. So because probability is kind of forming out relationship between the total number of favorable outcomes by the total number of outcomes, right? You are trying to segregate, and how does that is related to classification? Because in classification, your task is to find out the set of categories where your problem belongs, whether that can be related to text analysis, or reviews, whether you see the reviews in Amazon or in Twitter, you tweet some kind of statements, whether you like it or dislike in YouTube, everywhere reviews matter. And if you try to extract text from a data, that is text extraction or text categorization. Even your email filters, right? Your email tries to segregate whatever emails, if you are not subscribing, you obviously that will be going into spam, right? So that is the reason, even when we are sending emails, I ask always you to check all of your folders, your promotion, spam, your forums, because once you have unsubscribed it, obviously you don't get that mails to your inbox, because inbox is your priority. That doesn't mean mails are not sending into your mail. You should check all your folders. Once you unsubscribe it, that will be to your main box. So that's how the classification is related in our general terms. Now I would relate this classification with probability, because when we talk about probability, the concept emerged something like in 17th or 18th century itself, finding out any events when kings were used to rule due to their when they want to occupy other kingdoms. They used to have some ministers who try to tell in which way we should target, in which way, in all these things. Even in World War, they use some kind of probability technique so that they could estimate how they could find out the enemy targets. In the same way, we relate classification with Naive Bayes, because when I talk about Naive Bayes, it has its roots from conditional probability. So if you say conditional probability, what do you mean by conditional probability? Because this Naive Bayes concept has emerged from the conditional probability itself. That means you may have one or more events. So no, probability of an event is different, conditional probability is different. If you have one or more events, the event of the occurrence of one event might be having some relationship with another event. Yes, one event is conditioned on the, some layman terms you can say, you are trying to find relationship from one event to another event. That means they do not depend on each other, they are independent of each other, but you are trying to find out relationship, how that event is going to happen. Yes, how that event is going to happen. So that's how that concept has been taken into picture, and the famous theorem called as Bayes theorem has been emerged. So same steps. See, you try to train the data, you try to predict it. That's what the steps which you have seen in the previous session. We are going to see the same thing in today's session along with text. That's what I wanted you to understand. So if you see the term Naive Bayes, actually the scientist name itself is Bayes, so the name has been taken as Navy Bayes, but you have the importance of two letters, two words, Naive and Bayes. If you see, Naive is something like, it shows a lack of experience, that one feature in a model is independent. That means it does not depend on the existence of another feature. Something like, if you toss a die, one time you may get the outcome as 4. That doesn't mean every time you'll get the outcome as 4, because next time you may get 6. If you're having multiple dice, that means you can apply the conditional probability over there, and you can relate the outcome of one event with the another event. So that's how the concept of naive Bayes have come into picture, and it is highly used in classification problems, because in text classification, where we include data, sentences, because sentence is a group of words, and if you go for relating it to document includes the group of sentences. A word is group of letters, a sentence is group of words, a document is group of sentences. We try to use the same concept of naive Bayes in classification problems. That is the reason naive, you try to make sure one feature is independent of existence of another feature. If I tell about Bayes, it makes sure that the presence of one feature is unrelated to another feature. It is named after the scientist's name, and naive is something like it doesn't depend on other event, whether that is happening or not. You can relate that thing as a conditional probability. If you can see out the formula, I'll give an example. So it is purely based on Bayes theorem. Naive Bayes classifier is purely based on Bayes theorem, and it is faster to train, and it includes simple mathematical techniques where you try to relate the same thing with the help of probability. Let's go for an example. You can clearly understand. So this is how the Bayes theorem is related. You can see, right? So it is a way to figure out how conditional probability is dependent, because conditional probability is something like P of A by B is equal to P of A comma B by P of B. You can relate in that way, because if they are dependent, P of A intersection B is equal to 0. That's how the probability concepts are. And how can I relate to the general ways? Because that's what you need to understand. We have everything in statistics, and now data science is doing how we relate that thing in statistics to real terms, right? So if you see the general formula of Bayes theorem, you can see that is P of H by E is equal to, I mean, if I tell in terms of A comma B, P of A by B is equal to P of B by A into P of A by P of B. You can see the colors also I have given over there. The green color indicates posterior probability. That means how probable is our hypothesis based on the given observed evidence. Posterior, after, prior, before, likelihood, how it is able to occur. Because in conditional probability, I make sure I have one condition. I should satisfy that condition. In similarly, whenever we work on text classification, you need not apply directly the formula of condition probability and Bayes theorem. That's where sklearn has come into picture. Where if you have related in the previous webinar, before last webinar, we have used the regression concept, and we have related that thing mathematically, and we have done in the format of sklearn. In today also, we'll directly use sklearn, and we'll relate with the help of the naive Bayes classifier. Because if you work on if you work on text kind of data, that means if you have more number of dimensions, that means more features within your data, you go for multinomial. If you go for binary classification, you can go for Gaussian naive Bayes. So that's how we relate our data. Mainly this is purely used in text classification. Whenever you are trying to work with text data, this naive Bayes classifier proves you better output. If you remember, we have done the same thing in sentiment analysis, the first webinars which we have conducted, where we have used extraction of Twitter data from Twitter API with the help of Tweepy. There also we have used the naive Bayes concept of conditional probability, right? If you see the yellow color one, this is the likelihood probability. How probable is that the event is going to happen, and that is true. And you relate the same thing with the help of conditional probability. And P of H is an event, how probable it is observed before observing the evidence. P of A is what are the possibilities. We talk them as posterior probability, posterior, afterwards. You are trying to find out. Prior, before happening the event. Likelihood, how likely it will happen. P of E, that is the based on the evidence. So this is how the roots from conditional probability make us to form the Bayes theorem. So I can take an example and we'll prove how this is formed. So if you see, probably you might have heard about the deck of cards, right? Yes. So my condition is to calculate the probability that the card contains a king, right? So probably the deck of cards are 52 deck contains 52 cards, and each set is 13 cards: club, spade, diamond, and the other thing is you have the 4 sets, right? So club, spade, diamond, and we have another kind of shape which will be, I don't exactly remember the thing. So you have 4 sets. Yeah, club, spade, diamond, heart. Yeah, I got it. So club, spade, diamond, heart. You have 4 sets, 13 each. A, 2, 3. I hope you remember that thing, right? So in the same way, now my task is to calculate based on the deck of cards. My probability is to find out that what is the probability that when I pick the card that will contain a king. That is my probability, because I'm clearly asking here the probability when I pick the card that is a king card. Generally, how many kings we have in a deck of cards? Guess. You'll be having 4 kings because you'll be having 4 different sets, right? So here, whatever card I pick, 13 is individual set. Whatever card I pick, I should have that as a king face, right? The card I pick should contain a king. So I made my condition. So what is my formula? Probability of face by king. This is P of A by B. When you see that is E by H is likelihood. So what is the probability of face by king, and what are your events? Probability of king by probability of face. If we can relate the same thing here, according to Bayes' theorem, what is the probability of face by king? Face by king. You can see over there why I am writing 1 over there. I already gave the answer over there. 1 into 1 by 13 by 3 by 13. Why probability of face by king is 1? Because you can see over there, as we know, if the card is a king, it will be a face card, right? If I know the card is a king, what does that mean? That will be a face card, right? So that is the reason I gave probability as 1. So 1 into, what is the probability of king? Probability of king is, as you said, 4 kings. And what is your deck of cards? 52. So 4 by 52, that is 1 by 13. So 1 into 1 by 13 by, what is the probability of face? How many faces do you have? 4 sets, 3 faces, because king, queen, jack, right? So 4 sets, 3 faces, that is 4 into 3, 12. So 12 by 52. What do you mean by that? 3 by 13. So 1 into 1 by 13 by 3 by 13. So what is the probability? That is 1 by 3. That is 30%, nearly 33%. You can say whenever you give up a deck of cards, the probability that the card will, whatever you pick, will contain a king card is 33%. So that is how we relate probability to thing. Yes. So that is how we go it in general concepts. That is a simple concept. I hope I'm not going very fast. You might have joined late. That is a simple concept. I'm relating to general terms. If you can see dice, or you can see toss, coining, you toss a coin, you relate all those things, right? In the same way, I'm trying to relate my Bayes' theorem to deck of cards, right? So if the events are increasing, what do you do over here? You make sure if you're having P of A by B, C, D, you make P of A by B into P of B by C into, you try to relate in that way. You try to increase the number of likelihood events. That's where it is applicable to multiple dimensions. See, probably if you are getting echoes, that will be from your end. See, in my end, it is pure clean. Yes, is it clear? Now let's relate the same concept to the types of Naive-Bayes classifiers and how. Yes, obviously you're having king, queen, jack. So 3 items, 3 faces, 33, 33, 33, 99%. Exactly, that is how probability will be less than or equal to 1. So that is how you relate probability to general concepts. And if I increase more amount of data, that's how probability has formed the root concepts of statistics. And statistics, we are making the applications with the help of statistics in statistics, where we take the statistics concepts in machine learning. So that's why, yes, let me make it clear. Someone asked me probability of face by king, because probability of face by king is, I already made a condition that if the card is king, if the card is compulsory a king, that will be a face card, right? What is the probability you are getting over there? If you know already that is a king card, that will be obviously a face card. Only king will have faces. King, queen, jack will only have faces in set of 13 set of cards. I mean 13 cards. Remaining 10 are numbers, right? So that is the reason I made probability of face by king is, so face in the sense, if you don't know the deck of cards, you'll be having the king type face on your card. You can, if you see cards, you'll be having king, queen and jack. You can open it in Google and you can see. Chat box you'll be having in Q&A. You click Q&A, you can type message over there. So that is how, yeah, someone gave you the answer. Cards having pictures, right? So that is how the Bayes theorem is related to general concepts. And now, what are the types of Naive-Bayes which we are going to use in machine learning? We will be trying to work on both of the things today, as we are we'll be having some time. So we'll be working on both of the things, how we can use of the built-in data sets and how we can make sure that thing is related to statistical terms and how we can relate it to you. So the first thing is Gaussian Naive-Bayes. It has its concept from the concept of mean and standard deviation. You can see variance. You can see mean as mu, sigma is standard deviation. How far the values are being changing from the set of range of values. You can see variance is, you can find out the average difference with the mean, and standard deviation is nothing but the square root of the variance. That means you result in a format of bell-shaped curve. The more wider the curve is, that means the standard deviation is increasing. The middle value indicates the mean. So that's how I relate my Gaussian Naive-Bayes to some set of categories. Other than text, I can use Gaussian Naive-Bayes, because you can see over there, it is used in classification, where I try to relate general set of categories of data Naive-Bayes. So if I would calculate manually, I should find out the mean from the data. I should separate them into categories. Then I should go for calculation. Yes, that's the reason your bell-shaped curve, which is very, very important in statistics, is related to Gaussian Naive-Bayes. That means I extract that thing from sklearn. If you are trying to work on text kind of data, that means, so for continuous kind of data, we go for Gaussian Naive-Bayes. I can call it in generally. If we are going for discrete counts, that means we are trying to have the multinomial Naive-Bayes. Generally two types, and the third type is nothing but Bernoulli, which is clearly used in natural language processing. So that's how this probability is related to machine learning. So the simple steps will be, we try to handle the data from a CSV file. Now in today's class, we are not going to use CSV file as usual. We are going to use some different thing, which I wanted to make you learn. We'll be loading the data set directly from sklearn. As I said, that is the heart of machine learning library, where we try to use. If image, as I said already, you need to go with computer vision library. So that is how Python is related. So in Python you have every option. So if you can understand, Python is the second most generally used language. For a funny side, Python has been given the title. Python is the second most generally used language, because whatever kind of task you can have, Python will have the library. That is the second best language for everything. If you want to work on images, you have some kind of library called as computer vision. If you want to work with text, you can go from sklearn, or you can go for NLTK. If you want to go for web development, which we have done in the past sessions, we can go for frameworks, Django or Flask. If you want to build your own application, you can go for anything. That's how Python is having all the libraries, and it is pretty much comfortable to integrate with anything, with any kind of platform. So the simple steps will be, I have already said these 4 steps. You try to go for planning, you try to go for data pre-processing, that means data cleansing, data wrangling, data modifications. That whole thing has been taken place with the help of data analysis. That's where pandas and NumPy has been come into picture. So the difference between R and Python is first, R is a statistical programming language where if you're having more amount of data in numeric, you can work with R programming language. Python and R both are something like siblings where you can go on anything. If you want to go for machine learning with R, you can go ahead, but you need to have some syntax kind of format, and visualization you can have more number of plots in R programming language. So it is purely used for statistical purposes. You're having Q&A option, you can click on that, you can type your question. I can see your questions. So the 4 steps: data collection, that is planning; data pre-processing; modeling, that is model creation; model validation; model evaluation; and finally you calculate the accuracy. So that's how you are going to have the steps in all machine learning. In the previous session I have introduced them, and now we are going to do the same thing with the help of a built-in data set, right? So what I want you to do is, I hope the part is clear, right? How we can relate the probability towards the general things. Now in today's session I'll not send any file, or will not do that thing. We'll make use of the built-in sklearn data sets. We'll be working on 2 things. One is Gaussian Naive Bayes and one is multinomial. You'll understand the difference, how we can implement both of them. So you can open your Google Colaboratory, file, new notebook. You'll be getting Google Colaboratory. You can directly click on that. You can see, you can open a new notebook. You can see file option. You can click on new notebook. I hope we are familiar with this because from the past things we are doing the same thing. Type Colab in Google, because for any kind of applications related to machine learning or any kind of data sets, you can directly go for Anaconda platform, which is the best platform. But I cannot expect everyone to use that. So for research purposes or for easy kind of processing, you can use Google Colaboratory, because it will give you nearly 12 GB of space and nearly 100 GB of hard disk. So that's how Google Colaboratory has been widely used, and whatever you work over here, that will be automatically shared to your drive. Yep, nice. So let's go ahead. So the first thing I'll do is, so I'll write just 10 lines of code where I'll take the built-in data set and I'll segregate that into collection of data. I'll create a model, I'll predict the outcome, and I'll finally go with the accuracy. These are the steps widely used in machine learning. In middle, you'll be having training yes, obviously Colab will depend on internet speed, because Google, you're opening a Chrome browser, right? How does your browser relate? The same way Google Colab relates. The first thing you need to write is from sklearn dot, which is the new thing we are learning, dot datasets. You import, see, from sklearn dot datasets, you import dot datasets. That means I can go for built-in datasets. You can see we are having more number of built-in datasets which sklearn library has default has. That is the reason I said scikit-learn, which is used for scientific computing, is the heart of machine learning libraries, where you can have default many of the data sets and you can start working on that. I hope the font is clear and everything is clear from your end, because it's already maximized. Yes, I hope my screen is visible and everything is clear. Yep. So from sklearn.datasets, I want to import the famous dataset known as Iris dataset. See, you can type in Google sklearn.datasets. It will be directly redirected to the sklearn website, and you can see what are the datasets available. So from sklearn.datasets, you import load_iris. That means you are taking that specific dataset. You need not download any dataset or any CSV file, because if you are comfortable with first built-in datasets, then you can frame your own datasets and you can collect. I define a variable iris is equal to, you call the variable whatever the dataset you have downloaded, and you bring out the functionalities in it. And if you print the dataset, You see what are the things that is present, you can see in the screen. See, it will give you the entire information. You can scroll. Once you give iris is equal to load underscore iris, you print that variable. No issues, no idea of that thing. That is the reason I wanted you to understand the different concepts we are trying to teach in each session. I wanted to go in a different way today. No use of pandas here. Obviously, no use of NumPy here. You can directly relate only sklearn here. So if you see, when you print that variable iris, you'll be having an array over there which includes the numerical terms, because iris dataset is a collection of 150 values of 3 species, flower species. So we have rose flower and all the things, but we don't know the biological names, right? Even we humans have the biological names, human beings and reptiles and all the things. So this is the iris data set, which has 4 features. The 4 features includes sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. We do not use pandas here. Pandas is only used for analysis, and if you try to fill the values and if you try to make sure that the data to be clean, you can go for pandas. Here I'm taking built-in data set, so no need of giving pandas. You can directly load it from sklearn. That's what we are going to see today. And this data set will be clean because that's a built-in data set. You can see what is that printed. Four values of individual rows, which includes sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. Because flower has those things, right? Sepals and petals. Petals are the outer parts, sepals are the inner parts, length and width. And if you scroll down, you can see the feature names. The feature names you can see over there, right? Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. And you have the targets 0, 1, 2. And the file will be in this location, sklearn.datasets. If you download it in your Jupyter or Python, that will be saved in your system as CSV file, iris.csv. If you see the target 0, 1, 2, 0 stands for setosa, 1 stands for versicolor, 2 stands for virginica. Those are the flower names. This is the well used data set, which is of only 150 values, that is 150 rows, 3 columns. Did everyone do it? For built-in data sets, no need of using pandas. Pandas is only used for data retrieving, data cleansing, data refining, and data extraction. Here, extraction, I need not use it because I can directly load it from sklearn. If it is done, then we'll go for the next step. The next step is you need to collect your data. That means you need to store the values. That is, store the feature matrix, that is independent variable and dependent variable. That is feature matrix and the response. I named that as response vector y. That means you need to take out individual things. You need to take out the 4 features from your x, 4 features from your data set into x, and for second line you just press enter. It will go to next line. If you run that cell, you can see the option. See, it will, if you click on that, you can see run cell. Shift enter you can use. This is simple, you can understand it clearly. So if you go for x is equal to iris dot I take data, iris dot data, and if you press enter, then you go for y. In y you give out your target, dot data dot target. Iris use your variable name, dot data will take the x values, and dot target will take the target. You can see when you print x, you have all the features in the format of an array into x column. This is multi-dimension, you can see x. And if you print y, you can see 0, 1, 2. 0 indicates setosa, 1 indicates versicolor, 2 indicates virginica. We are just framing it into x and y because always your target is to map your independent variable to dependent variable, which was started in the first sessions. Y is equal to mx plus c. That's where it relates everywhere. X, y. This is our step of where we try to collect the data, and if you see X is an array, right? X dot, if you try to find out, this is an array, right? If you give out X dot shape, you can see 150 rows and 4 columns, because 4 columns indicates the feature. And if you go for iris dot, you can see what are the target names you want to see. You can give the target names that includes the columns, that is setosa, versicolor, virginica, not columns. This is the target. This is 3 categories you are having. Dot data, dot target are the default parameters where you can take from your data set. Now our next target is to split it. Splitting the data, that is X and Y into, what is that part? Building a model, into training and testing part, which is your step. So what do you do here? From sklearn dot model selection, because here you try to split your data. If you are in the previous session, we have done the same thing. This thing remains same in building a model, that is model creation, model validation, model evaluation. Train underscore test underscore split, because why do you need this? You'll try to train your input data to your target, so that for this values, for this, suppose if I give my sepal length as 5 centimeters, 5.2, petal length as 3 centimeters, petal width 3.5, for these values, this will be a flower, right? That's how the flowers are categorized, right? Rose is different, lily is different based on their color, based on their sepals, based on their petals. Will you agree with me? That is how the flowers are categorized, right? In the same way, we try to train our data, we are splitting here, so that whatever the data is learned, that should also be tested. Instead of training the entire data, you need to divide your data into into splits, that is training part and testing part. Now you name them. X is divided into training part and testing part, your input. Y is divided into training part and testing part. Then you initialize the value with the help of the function you called in the above, train underscore test underscore split. What is your data? X comma Y. And the parameters which if you have remembered from the previous session, what we have used, the test size or train size and the random state. So random state is used for making whatever the values you have initialized, that should be remain same. So test size, you can give 30% or 40%. As I said, that will be 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. You can give 30% or 40%, and I define my random state. That means my split values should not change. That is my input. From sklearn dot model selection, import train underscore test underscore split, and you split the data into train part and test part. Yes, I have typed it in the chat box. You can see you're splitting the data into training part and testing part. So this is how you split. Now you start training the model. Data pre-processing is done. You are trying to split the data is done. Then you train the model. You make the predictions. You evaluate the data. That is the 6 jars of machine learning we are doing now. If you are having any errors, do let me know. Now, in training the model, we initialize our probability classifier called as Naive Bayes classifier, which is Gaussian Naive Bayes. So these steps remain same for any model or any data set you do in machine learning. You take up the data, that may be a built-in data set, or that may be a CSV file. You try to read the data set, you perform data cleansing, data extraction, you try to split that into X and Y. You should initialize X is equal to iris.data, Y is equal to iris.target. I'm typing it in chat box. You can see X is equal to iris.data. You need to initialize first. How can you get it without calling the entire data set? Iris.target. Is it done, everyone? Is it done? Now, if it is done, then we'll go for training the model on training set. So here you take up your classifier from sklearn dot naive-Bayes. See, this is how the naive-Bayes is used. You need not write all the formula 1 by under root of. We have that entire formula, right, where we use for Gaussian naive-Bayes exploration, where you have the all the things 1 by under root of exponential 2 power minus. No need of all those things. You can directly import from sklearn dot naive underscore Bayes. Make sure you write it correctly. Here you take Gaussian naive-Bayes. So Colab will have the facility, you can directly, it will suggest you. When you write something, see here, when I'm writing GA, it is directly giving me Gaussian naive-Bayes. You can press enter, it will automatically taking into the classifier. Yes, so that is how you have initialized your model. Then to call the functionality within it, how you do it? You call the name Gaussian naive-Bayes. Why do you use parenthesis? So parenthesis plays a very key role in Python because that is used for functions, that is used for immutable Python objects, and function will make you to call all the properties. So when I call the classifier, that means I need not use all the mathematical calculation of finding out the Bayes principle. I need not calculate it directly. I can go for direct initialization, where you need not write the formula for calculation, that is 1 by under root of 2 pi sigma square e power minus x minus mu. You need not write all that stuff. You can directly initialize it. From sklearn.naive underscore Bayes, you import Gaussian naive-Bayes and you call the functionality. When you initialize this, that means your model has been taken. That means you're able to take that model, and once the model is done, you start fitting it. You make your data to be fitted. gnb.fit of, so you can see x comma y sample weight is equal to none. You can see the explanation also. In x it will be your input. In y that will be your target, and sample weights are nothing but how we are trying to map those x and y input. But we have done the splitting part, right? So when you are splitting, you need to have only the trained data, that is x train and y train. This is the process which we continue for all the steps. Whatever data set you take, whenever you are fitting, you need to fit only the training data, because first it should learn. See, priors is equal to none and the variable smoothing is very 0.00 values. Because Gaussian naive-Bayes will have default parameters. I don't want all those parameters to be initialized. I only give my data, because X train will have your train data and Y train will have your train target. You can see the values, different values. And if you try to find out the shape, you see X train dot shape 90 by 4, because you gave 40%, right? You try to initialize load underscore iris, not iris underscore load. From sklearn the data sets, Colab will help you. Whenever you're trying to write, it will show you the answer over there. You just press enter. Once you initialize the model, you try to fit that to data. Fitting, you always train your input, you always train your target, because this is supervised learning, where you match your y is equal to x. What is your y? Your target. Your x is your input. You match both of them. That's how we humans learn. In the same way, we'll try to train the data. gnb.fit of x train and y train. Once your data is fitted, you can see the shape of it. X train is 90 by 4. Y train, you can see only 90 values. That means your input values. 4 features. Target is categories: Setosa, versicolor, virginica. X train, Y train. Is it done? What error you are getting? We are at the end of it. Once we are fitted, we go for prediction, we go for calculating the accuracy. That's it. Once it is done, you go for prediction. Even I'm writing comments over there, because a good programmer will always write comments so that others can read it. So make predictions on the testing set. You try to make predictions only on your test data. You try to train your model with all the fitted data. That means you should split the data first. 90 values in your data. You can see shape always gives you the number of elements, the shape of the data. 90 rows, I mean 4 features are nothing but your 4 columns. Y-train will only give the values. X-train will give you rows and columns. Now you can go for predictions. Y predictions is equal to your, what is your model name? GNB. GNB dot predict. So always for prediction function, you need to give your input tested data, that is X test. X train, you have 90 values. In X test, you have the remaining 60 values, because that will be entire 150. 90 plus 60 is 150, right? Your entire data is 150 values. See, 90 comma in the sense, in Y, in target, you don't have your target values, right? You are training your target with the help of input values. Always 90 comma space in the sense, that means you don't have the columns over there. The columns will be trained with the help of X-train. GNB dot fit of X-train and Y-train. Then you can go for predict. GNB dot predict of X test. Always for prediction, you go for X test. Fitting X train, Y train, prediction X test. Calculating accuracy, you go for the predicted data and you go for the Y test. You include all those 4 parameters: X train, X test, Y train, Y test. Fitting X train, Y train, prediction X test. Your entire data has been splitting. That's it. Don't confuse about that thing. X test is here. Whenever you call X, see X test dot shape, you can see the shape includes the remaining 60. 90 plus 60 is 150. That's what you're having the values. So here itself you can go for prediction, because GNB dot predict of X test. Whatever values you can give from your data set, you can directly give it. Right? So let me predict. So Y underscore predict is equal to, let's give the some values. GNB dot predict of, let me give out some values from the data itself. Let me give out the last value: 5.9, 3 point, 5.1, 1.8. You need to give this in multi-dimension, 2 square braces, because sklearn will only take the multi-dimensional data. So 5.9, you can give any values, but I'll try to check with the first the values which are present, that is 5.9, 3.0, 5.1, 1.8. 4 features: sepal length, sepal width, petal width. And let's see what does it is giving you. Y prediction, it is giving you 2. What does 2 means? The third species. You can cross check it from the data. What is the last value showing? The last value in X is mapping to the last value in target, 2. 2 means Virginica. So that's how your prediction has been so far trained exactly, because this is supervised learning. Even if you give the other than values, it will try to map them. If you share the link, I cannot see it now because the screen is sharing. You try to see what is there. See, in predict, you can give out any values. If you try to remove any one square brace, you can see the error over there. See, reshape your data using either -1, 1, because sklearn will not take single dimension data, because single square brace indicates that is you're writing an array in 1 dimension. You need to write in multi-dimension, which is the simple concept of NumPy arrays. For every prediction you make, you need to enclose it in double square braces, because sklearn will only take multi-dimension data. If you want to get the name, you should not convert that into target, because that is a built-in data set, right? We have only taken X train, X test. In X, I gave Y equal to iris.target. If you are having a CSV file, then you can name that thing into those names, because I am trying to map everything into numeric. 2 indicates your string value, right? That is the reason you can compare that thing with the built-in data. So the final step is you try to calculate the accuracy. So for calculating accuracy, what do? I take the matrix functionality and calculate accuracy and confusion matrix and all the things. If you remember, we have done the confusion matrix in the previous step itself. So for taking that part, I need to initialize from sklearn. I can directly import matrix. So here I'll directly give a print statement. You can see the accuracy is, I want in percentage. I define in percentage. You make sure you're writing in parenthesis. So everything in quotation is a string, and you write the value over here, strings and variables, that is matrix dot accuracy underscore score of, for always calculation of accuracy score and all the things, you need to give your y-test. So xtrain is used, x-test is used, y-train is used, and now y-test we are using, y-test comma y-prediction. If you want in hundreds percentage, you can directly give like this. Now you can see the score, y underscore test comma y underscore prediction. We are getting some value error. Okay, no issues. Let me rechange this thing to gnb dot predict of x underscore test, because here due to the new update you cannot directly take up the variable here. You need to write the model name dot predict of x test, so that you can get the accuracy as 95%. Did everyone get that? Because we are also having to work on text also. Your y-test comma y-prediction, or y-prediction, in place of y-prediction you can give out the model name dot predict. What is your model? Gaussian Naive-Bayes classifier, and dot predict will give you the functionalities. In the same way, if you want to have the classification confusion matrix, so what do? You give out confusion underscore a matrix you need to take. So matrix dot confusion underscore matrix of, you can directly take y underscore test comma gnb dot predict of x test. Then you can see your confusion matrix. So you are having 95%. The first row indicates 0 species, that is Setosa. Second one indicates your versicolor. Third one indicates your virginica. So 2 species are classified into another category. 1 species is classified into another category. That is the reason you are getting 95%. So this is about Gaussian classifier, where we have taken simple data set. Did you get the confusion matrix? 0, 1, 2, 3 species. You can calculate the F score and all the things. You can get, if you want to have classification report, matrix dot classification report, you get all the values. That is the same thing you can do. Yes. So this is about, see, this classification confusion matrix. We have already dealt this thing in the previous session. This is the first species. So you are having 40% of test data. What is 40% of 150? You can calculate all these things. 60 values, right? So 19 3s are 57 values are classified into 3 different categories. 3 values are into 2 different sets. That is the reason you are getting 95% of accuracy. If everything is classified 20 20 20, that means your model is perfectly classified. See, classification confusion matrix will always gives you true positive, true positive, true positive. You can see the diagonal values. The diagonal indicates different classes. So first species perfectly segregated. If you see in second, you are having some missing values here. 2 values are categorized into another class. If you see the third species, 1 value has been categorized into second category. So first row indicates 0, second row indicates 1, third row indicates 2. Setosa, versicolor, virginica. 3 values have been categorized into two different categories. So that is the reason you are getting accuracy as 95%. Yep, am I clear? So this is about Gaussian Naive Bayes. Now let's go for text analysis, where we'll be using multinomial. We have more 20 minutes of time so that we can finish that thing also, but little bit faster. I'll be using same built-in data set where I'll be using 20 news groups data, because 20 news groups data is the most widely used data set, which consists of nearly 80,000 groups of data of 20 topics. Now what I'll do, I'll try to train on some topics and I'll try to find out my data. So from sklearn.datasets, I import fetch. See, whenever you write fetch, see, you're getting suggestions, right? Fetch 20 news groups, and you fetch the data. Data is equal to fetch underscore. You call the data. Always you need to initialize it with the help of parentheses. Then you can see the data. You can see the 20 categories. What do you have in newspaper? It will take some time to download. First, it should be downloaded 20 news data, because it will contain 80,000 news groups. Basically, in newspaper you have the sports data, business, and all the things, right? So in this, we'll be having the news groups data related to graphics, computers, space, sports, and all this data. So this will be downloaded from the web. You can see all the things, and at the end you can see the categories. I'll paste this in chat box so you can download it directly, because I wanted to show you how Gaussian Naive Bayes is different from multinomial Naive Bayes. Because in multinomial, more number of categories, as the name itself says. So the categories include, you can scroll down, you can see the number of categories: graphics, atheism, person believing in God, motorcycles, baseball, hockey, medicine, electronics, religion, politician. So I'll try to train some kind of categories from this. If you want to train 20 categories, your model will take some time to learn. I'll try to train 3 categories out of it. I'll try to train religion, I'll try to train Christianity, because Christianity also belongs to religion, and space and graphics. So that's how I'll train those 4 categories. It will take some time to download, but it will download. So for simplicity, I'll select few categories. So I name it as categories is equal to, so whatever name you're having displayed above, you should write the same name. Make sure you write it correctly. Talk dot religion dot miscellaneous. That is the category name. It will be in quotations. And then for Christianity, social dot religion dot Christian, CHRISTIAN, Christian. And the next category is space. I want to train about the space category. That means at the end, if you write a sentence, that will categorize it into whether it belongs to which category or not. That is how the basis for text classification has been done. I am trying to train religion, Christianity, space, and the graphics, because I wanted to make you aware of the text classification, 20 news data sets. I wanted to explain you how multinomial classification is working. If you don't understand the built-in data set, then it is waste of going for the other data sets. So I suggest whenever I train people, because I learned in the same way, I worked on the built-in data sets, then I used to make the data sets from Kaggle, then I built my own data sets. So that's how the learning process should be there. Categories, and you train the data. Train is equal to fetch 20 news groups of, you give here, you can see fetch 20 news groups of, you can see data, home is equal to none, subset. So in subset, you give out your train data, and you make sure What are your categories which you have mentioned above? The variable name you can directly call over here. Categories is equal to categories. That is for training part. And for testing part also, you give fetch underscore 20 news groups, and the same subset is test part. And what are your categories? You can train any categories. Make sure you write it as similar from the above. You can see hockey, electronics. I have taken related to computers, space, religion, and Christianity. You can take anything. Make sure you write it correctly. As I'm already pasting the same code in the chat box, you can take as it is for your understanding purpose. If you want to train another categories, you can go for another categories also. It depends on your interest. You try to type instead of expecting a paste from me, so that it will be easy for you. You'll understand. So these are the categories you have trained. You have given training part and testing part. If you want to see any kind of data from the data set train, you can directly print them. Print of train data. Train dot data of, let's see what is the first article showing me. Print of train dot data. See, it is giving me about they drew a circle and shut him out. Heretical, rebellical, a thing to flout but love. Some category of the train data. This is the entire article. Motorola LPA development. That may be related to computers kind of stuff, because I gave computers.graphics. In the same way, you can see, because this is a news article, you'll be having from organization who have written article, and this is about the Christian articles. So School of Ocean of Earth and Science and Technology, you can see atheist, a person who doesn't believe in God. So that's how once your category has been trained, you can print the data. We are about to that thing. We'll go for that thing. Don't worry. Within next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll be fitting the data. We'll be go for prediction. Subset is nothing but you are trying to keep it in a set format. You are trying to make sure that how we are trying to keep it. Subset of train, subset of test. So here you initialize your how you can extract the text. So that's where you go for term frequency, inverse document frequency, because from the entire text, how can you understand that specific? If you write, I love Jesus Christ, what does that mean? Something like Christianity. So I love Dell laptop. Dell is a computer related term. So I love NASA or ISRO, space shuttle. This all belongs to space category. So how can that extract? Only with the help of feature extraction, with the help of TF IDF vectorizer, that is term frequency inverse document frequency vectorizer. So this is the package where you can try to extract the features from the data. So obviously, what is your classifier? From sklearn dot same naive underscore base, you import, as this is text data, you need to go for multinomial naive base, right? So here what I'll do is I'll try to make sure you arrange everything in an order. So for that, I need to have the entire text should be classified and it should be learned. Categories you have already given above. Categories equal to category. Whatever you're having in black color, that is a variable. That is a simple logic in Python. You can print of train dot data. You can directly give. Here, I want to relate my vectorizer to, vectorizer nothing but you're trying to extract the features. So for that, you use another method in sklearn, which is nothing but pipeline. So you relate this thing pipe to general words. What is pipe? Where you have some flow of water, right? In the same way, you relate from sklearn.pipeline, you import make underscore pipeline. Now you try to relate both of them, because the text should be classified and that should be taken with the help of features. So for that both purposes, I initialize both of them. TF IDF, term frequency, how many letters, how many exact words are appearing again. Frequency, repetitive word. So that is the general concept used in text extraction. So I initialize all my models. So TF IDF me see from sklearn.feature underscore extraction. I made some simple spell mistake over there. Just a minute. VECTORIZDR sklearn.feature underscore extraction dot text. Sorry, I did not give out text here. Dot text. So that is the reason it is giving you cannot import name text. So because feature extraction, where you are trying to extract the different categories, whatever sentence you give, that should be from which category. Yes, I am already sharing that code. You can see TF-IDF, term frequency inverse document frequency, is for making your features extracted from different sentences. Multinomial Naive Bayes is for classification. Now you combine both of them with the help of pipeline. For combining different kind of parameters in machine learning, we use a methodology called as pipeline. Right? So pipeline is generally, in houses we use pipe for carrying an organized flow of water, right? In the same way, in pipeline you give vectorizer and your multinomial Naive Bayes. Now next part is you fit the data, model dot fit of what you are giving here, train dot data. In fitting always you need to give train dot data. I am not splitting here. That is the reason I am giving train dot data comma train dot target. Train TRAIN. So train dot data comma train dot target. Then you initialize your labels. Labels is nothing but you go for prediction. Model dot predict. Predict of what you want to see. Test dot data. I'm not giving any percentage or anything. Just I'm training my input data and I'm predicting my test data. I'm not splitting anything because this is multinomial classification. I don't want to split it. Now I'll see how those categories have been trained. You can see it in the print statement. I have already pasted in the chat box. Now we have predicted the label for the test data. That is labels is equal to model.predict of test.data. Now we can evaluate the performance. So for that evaluation, I make use of my Seaborn library, because if I give test.data, you cannot see exactly. It will be text format. It will be start loading it continuously. So that is the reason I'll try to evaluate in the format of a graph. So you may or may not split only. For in text classification, you need not think every time to be splitting. If you are working on recommendation analysis, then only you go for NLTK libraries and you'll try to split it. So here I don't need to split my data. It only depends on your user interest whether if a data set is working for splitting. But the general way splitting is good. So here I am taking only 4 categories. I am training my train.data and train.target. Your target is train, your input is train, and you're testing it. So here I want to visualize that thing with the help of visualization library called as Seaborn. Now we have predicted the labels for the test data. We can evaluate them with the help of performance. We can evaluate them to learn the performance of the estimator, where at the end I'll try to give my input. I'll see whether that is giving the exact category or not, irrespective of the sentences present in the newspaper. You can give anything. So I'll import Seaborn because I want to see a heat map. So I need to see what categories I want to see over there. So from sklearn.metrics, because I want to see in the format of confusion matrix. Because I'll be visualizing a confusion matrix. I wanted you to understand how better we can visualize with the help of Seaborn. So matrix is equal to what you define, confusion underscore matrix of what is your input here, test dot target, comma, what is your prediction, labels. Next I'll plot a heat map. So heat map will give you the color combination of the rectangular array. So for that generally heat map is used. So I want to see my confusion matrix in the format of heat map. If you can directly print the confusion matrix, you can see how does that relate. So if I give mat of, you can see how does that get. We get this confusion matrix. So 4 categories, you can see 344, 364, 392, 48. So here 13 plus 32 different categories. So you're having some disturbances in different categories because you gave religion and Christianity, both are similar. If you try to train with different things, then you can get different kind of confusion matrix values. Let's see, I wanted to project that thing in the format of heat map, sns.heat map of, I wanted to visualize in the format of an array, sns.heat map of mat.t, that is transpose of the array, and that should be in square. So the problem of the Colab is it will give you direct suggestion and it will hide your screen. So mat.t is your input. You are making your confusion matrix in transpose form, that is rows into columns, and annote is equal to true. That means whatever the values you give, you should appear on the confusion matrix. And format is decimals, because those are the default values in heat map. I can take it from, you can see format is 0.2j. You're having all the suggestions in Seaborn. Just 5 more minutes. And color bar, that is color bar in the sense how we are trying to give the colors. And the next one is tick labels. Whatever the parameters present in the heat map, I am trying to initialize my required things. So x tick labels is equal to train dot target underscore names, comma, and for y what you are giving, train dot target underscore names, because the name should be present on both the x-axis and y-axis so that you can see both of them. That is y tick labels is equal to train dot target underscore names. So x is equal x tick labels, y tick labels, and you give out plot plt dot x label. So for plot you need to have matplotlib also. Import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt for visualization. Plt dot x label, these are true labels, and plt dot y label you give predicted labels. Once it is done, I can paste it in the chat box. Don't worry about that. Predicted labels. Let me see. How does my confusion matrix look like? You can see clear values over there. Whatever the data you can see, you have plotted it in the format of a matrix. So for this visualization, I gave the Seaborn. You can see I gave it in the chat box. Whatever the confusion matrix you are getting in the rectangle form, I am plotting it in the format of heat map. You can see color bar I gave is equal to false. If you give color bar is equal to true, that's a boolean, you can see a rectangle slide to your right side of the bar. That means what are the values lying. The diagonal represents the different categories. So exactly out of 10, 344 plus 10, 3 out of 355 categories in graphics, 354 exactly trained. So the diagonal values will represent the categories, and exactly 48 have been trained into religion. You can see the different mismatch in religion and Christianity, 187, because religion and Christianity, both of them match. If you're having different categories, both of them will have very less values as the above, graphics and space. Did you get it, everyone? Matt, you should define your confusion matrix. See, whenever you're getting name error, that means you're not defining the variable name over there. If you want to remove the text, you can give plt.show. You can see the graph. And finally, we give our statement and we'll predict whether our category, our given sentence is lying in that category or not. That is the final step. That is the reason I'm always strictly giving you multinomial will form under text classification. Is it done? Did everyone get? Yep. So finally, you can see here you're having 187 values colliding with the religion and Christianity, because religion and Christianity, both of them match. That is the reason you are having some ambiguity over there. So for prediction, I define a function so that I can predict n number of times. I make use of my function concept. I define my parameter. Train is equal to train. I define, because blue indicates your input and function should always be closed with colon, and you give prediction is equal to model dot predict of, you can give your array, because everything is in the format of an array. That is the reason arrays concept is with the help of numpy. So the function should return train under train dot target underscore names of the prediction values, because it should predict the values. Whatever I'm giving my sentence over there, it should predict the value. That means if I give some sentence that is sending a payload to ISS, that is International Space Station, it would give you that will belong to space category. To tell like that. So pipeline will make your feature extraction and multinomial Navier base will be arranged in an order. I pasted the thing. Now I'll use my functionality and I give some statement. What do I give? I give same thing. Sending a payload to the ISS. Let's see what does it gives us. See, it is giving you space category, because that word relates to space. You give your function, you give your train data. With the help of multinomial Navier base, the model will be learned. In the same way, if I give category, so I have given graphics, right? So my system screen is not good. If I give in that way, it should tell you the computer related thing. So it is predicting you. So that's how you can train the data and you can predict it. Whatever the categories you have given, only that thing only you should predict. If you give another other than that category, it will tell you the category is not something. Because if I try to train something like predict underscore category of I love cricket, it is telling you social, religion, Christian, because I gave love word. Cricket is from sports category, but you gave love word. Love in the sense you love God or you love some religion, right? That is the reason it is mapping it into religion category. So if you want to train all the categories, you can train the categories in the categories list in the first step itself. So whatever sentence you give, that will map accordingly. So multiple sentences, multinomial. Yes, is it done? So that is how probability concept has been helpful in machine learning. Where if you go for text kind of thing, that is for multinomial. If you go for general kind of dimensions, that can be numerics, you can go for Gaussian Navier base. So here we have used, so the built-in data set, we have used the classifier. The two terms newly we have used is vectorizer and pipeline. So pipeline is nothing but where you try to map both the classifier and your vectorizer, so that it will map both the things, and whatever categories you are training, it will classify. Yes, is it done? How many of you have received the output? You can, whatever sentence you can train. See, deploying the model will be of two types. One thing you should go for cloud, other thing is for building an API. It is not that simple. If you are having the command on the frameworks, then you can deploy it in the format of user interface. That's what we train in our code, and we make users to build their APIs, build their own APIs. I hope we have made your this session also worthwhile. Right? I hope you have enjoyed this session also as usual. So see you day after tomorrow.